attitude more. This type of person is someone worth associating with. Then Vu Truyenmin looked at Chu Hao, who was bowing his head. There was a person there at the right time who could take advantage of it and sail smoothly. Vu Truyenmin turned to ask So Min, "Mr. So, do you need help disposing of the trash over there?" Hearing that, Chu Hao was startled and trembled like a leaf. So Min turned to look at Chu Hao and asked again, "Trash?" Chu Hao worriedly thought, "It's gone. It's still my turn. If you don't handle it right now, you will never come back." Not only Chu Hao but the juniors behind him were all looking at him and asking for help. "Big brother, quickly think of a way. Save my life!" Chu Hao stands between life and death. He clenched his teeth. Then suddenly he bowed his head, tears overflowing his eyes, and turned on his amazing acting mode. He begged loudly, "Young Master Chu, please spare my life. I have an 80-year-old mother above, below I have a child who is only 7 or 8 years old, and in between I have a 40 and 50-year-old wife still waiting for me to raise. Please spare my life. When they die, their lives will be over." Both Vu Truyenmin and So Min were speechless when they heard that, not knowing what to say to him. So Min turned to Vu Truyenmin and said, "Forget it, these people don't need your action. I can handle it myself." Hearing that, Vu Truyenmin also asked to leave. So Min was also polite and did not send him off. Vu Truyenmin turned and left, not forgetting to smile at So Min. He secretly thought to himself, Mr. So is truly a talented person. As he left, he thought to himself, not only is Mr. So good at medicine, but his skills are also far beyond his imagination. The gun that fell on the ground had already fired bullets, so it was possible to control these people in that situation without any injury. Vu Truyenmin wiped his hands and thought again. His ability far exceeded what the old man said. Such a talent. If I can't take him under my command and get robbed by my big brother, then my plan will be in trouble. After Vu Truyenmin's group left, Chu Hao's group all bowed their heads and bowed to So Min. "Thank you for sparing young Master So's life. From now on, Chu Hao, I will be a buffalo and a horse to repay your great kindness. Your virtue." On this side, Tan Yen saw such a situation and said to himself, Mr. Hao is not afraid of heaven, not afraid of earth, and bowed his head to the ground in front of So Min. This is also too unreasonable. So Min turned to Chu Hao and the others and asked, "Is Mr. Vu just that scary? Look at your shy, serious appearance." Chu Hao immediately sweat dropped and replied, "What you see is just the appearance of second young master. In the underworld of Zhang Chao, he is called courteous devil." Chu Hao raised his face and continued, "I heard that the bad things behind the Vu family's back were done by the second young master. If it weren't for your help today, I would definitely die." Hearing Chu Hao say that, So Min secretly thought, is it so powerful? Forget it, it doesn't matter. Now Chu Hao is completely obedient. Good thing I have a job where I can take advantage of these guys. So Min thought so and immediately asked Chu Hao, "If I have saved you, would you be willing to help me with 2 things? Chu Hao immediately agreed. "You just say it. Don't say 2 things, 200 things is no problem." So Min immediately ordered. "First of all, from now on, you are not allowed to come to Miss Tan Yen's bar anymore. No one is allowed to go there to cause trouble." Chu Hao immediately nodded. "No problem. If anyone dares to come to Miss Tan's bar to cause trouble, they have to step over my body." So Min continued with the second suggestion. "Second, help me collect information about famous girls throughout Zhang Chao." Chu Hao was surprised and thought to himself, "Information about the girl?" He looked at Tan Yen sitting there and thought to himself, "Young Master Chu is really bold. You still dare to flirt like that in front of your girlfriend. Ms. Tan is not the type of girl who is easygoing. I use dangerous tricks but still can't cut it." So Min continued, "Must be young, between the ages of 21 and 25 years old. Appearance also needs to be outstanding. If it's too normal, it's not quite right." All 4 of Chu Hao bowed respectfully. "Okay, no problem, young Master So. When we return today, we will find information for you." So Min then waved his hand to chase Chu Hao and his group away. The 4 guys left. When they reached the gate, they did not forget to wave. "Yes, young master. I will go work for you right away. Just leave it to me." The door immediately slammed shut. After closing the door, Chu Hao sat down. Only then did he relax his body. Finally gone. It's annoying to die. The plan failed, and he almost lost his life. The junior pulled the senior brother up and asked, "Brother Hao, should we just listen to that guy's words like that?" Hearing that, Chu Hao glared at him. Then he slapped the other guy and shouted, "Calm down a bit for me. That's the person that the second young master of the Vu family still has to respect. Young Master Chu is definitely a famous character. Now let's just hug our thighs first. Waiting for him to prosper, won't we also become fish tycoons here?" He was proud. "From now on, my Chu family will have the fish selling business in the palm of their hand." At the same time, inside the house, So Min whistled while cleaning the house. Tan Yen is in a very strange mood right now. She sat there absent-mindedly thinking, he is looking for a young girl, and this year I am 26 years old. As expected, he wouldn't look right at an old woman like me. Yet, So-min did not have any thoughts of girls in his mind. He just wants to find his seventh sister. According to the intelligence provided by the master, seventh sister was several years older than him. I'm 20 this year, so finding someone under 25 years old probably won't be a problem. So-min is proud that he is truly a genius, and Tan Yen still looked at So-min's back, thoughtfully thinking, a good man like So-min will be difficult to find in the future. Not only is he good at medicine, but he also knows many great people. He can conquer Chu Hao with just one sentence. She asked herself if So-min became her boyfriend, then she will probably no longer be upset about life. She gritted her teeth and thought, I don't want to be a weak person and let anyone step on me anymore. It was late outside. The two people's rented room is still lit. So-min just finished showering. He dried his hair and left the bathroom to Tan Yen. Tan Yen now gracefully walked to the bathroom, but So-min didn't pay any attention to her, only interested in monitoring his phone to see if Chu Hao had found any information. When mentioning Cao Cao, there is Cao Cao. Chu Hao immediately sent a message. Tan Yen did not receive So-min's attention. She angrily closed the bathroom door. This action startled So-min. Inside, Tan Yen is taking a bath. It must be said that this girl has an extremely beautiful body. I wish the author would show us more clearly. At that time, So-min, embarrassed, crawled into the room and closed the door. He thought confusedly, this is the first time I live under the same roof with my daughter. Especially a girl bathing next to the wall. So-min recited to calm his mind. A good doctor is like a mother. A good doctor is like a mother. They are all human bodies. 100 years later they will all be a handful of red soil. 10 minutes later, Tan Yen called So-min. So-min was surprised and thought, in this room, there is probably no one else besides me and Tan Yen. Besides, isn't she taking a bath? The knocking on the door became more urgent. So-min. It's me. Can you open the door? So-min was confused, not knowing why Tan Yen was suddenly taking a bath and came to his room. His face suddenly turned red. So-min took a breath to try to calm himself down. Maybe he just needed something. He slowly opened the door and asked, what's going on? Outside the door, Tan Yen was standing there nonchalantly wrapped in a towel, holding a bottle of wine. This provocative appearance made So-min blush and feel embarrassed. She slowly walked in, holding a bottle of wine. She asked So-min, tell me, is a girl like me very old? So-min hesitantly replied, you are very young. Very beautiful. Why do you ask like that? Besides, you just had surgery. Don't drink alcohol. Tan Yen nervously asked So-min. So why do you only need information from girls under 25 years old? I'm 26 this year. So-min confusedly scratched his head and ears. You said this? Actually, there was another reason. I didn't expect my words to hurt Tan Yen. Suddenly, Tan Yen's whole body staggered. The legs are no longer stable. Then she dropped the bottle of wine on the ground. So-min quickly supported her waist. Unconsciously, the two people's eyes looked at each other. The posture of the two people now looks exactly like a couple preparing to embrace each other. Tan Yen looked into So-min's eyes and asked, do you really think I'm very beautiful? So-min patted his chest and replied, it's true. She is very beautiful. If those words hurt you, I apologize. So-min was moved when she smelled the scent on Tan Yen's body. He again muttered the phrase, a doctor is like a mother. To calm down, Tan Yen was already very horny at this time. She grabbed her towel and said, so if it's possible, would you be willing to let me be your woman? As soon as Tan Yen finished speaking, the towel fell, revealing her entire body before So-min's eyes. So-min was so surprised that he blushed. He quickly grabbed a towel, but Tan Yen quickly grabbed his hand. She said softly, let it fall. I'm willing. So-min blushed and asked, but if it continues like that, maybe I will do something to harm you. Tan Yen sighed. I volunteered. So-min, like a lost soul, slowly approached Tan Yen. That's right. Young people are full of vitality. How can they control it? Suddenly So-min remembered his master's advice. If you choose, you must bear responsibility to the end. So-min recalled his master's advice when he and his brother were checking the health of a wild boar that was in pain. So-min touched the wild boar's belly and said, Master, it seems to be about to die. The great master immediately asked again. So do you want to save him? So-min worriedly replied. But I'm afraid my current medical skills can't save him. The great master immediately asked. So you want to give it up? But So-min immediately replied. No. The person who taught me is as kind as a mother. It is also a life. I want to try it. The great master immediately closed his eyes and suggested. If you have chosen, then take action. But then So-min failed. He shed tears looking at the dead wild boar in front of him. He said to his master, Master, it can't hold on, it's dead. It died when I opened the knife. The great master calmly advised. This is your choice. So-min cried. But I'm so sorry. If he didn't have surgery, maybe he could still live a little longer. The great master said kindly. It is right to feel guilty. If you have chosen, you must bear the responsibility to the end. He advised So-min, in the future of your life, there will be many more painful and sinful choices than this. This is the path of the medical practitioner. If you choose, you must take responsibility to the end. After recalling his master's lesson, So-min woke up from his coma. He thought to himself, "Beating with such a helpless girl, this is not the choice I want." Furthermore, the reason she offered herself was probably because she saw the attitude of those big figures towards her. Thinking so, So-min picked up the towel. On this side, Tan Yen was closing her eyes tightly. She couldn't understand why So-min hadn't touched her yet. So-min gently wrapped the towel around Tan Yen's body to her surprise. He seriously said to Tan Yen, "If possible, I hope you respect yourself. We are friends. If you have any difficulties, I can help you. It's like you waived 1,800 yuan of rent for me." Speaking of this, So-min smiled brightly. This statement startled Tan Yen. Tan Yen had tears in her eyes. She burst into tears and hugged So-min. In the dark night, the room of two people echoed with Tan Yen's cries. Hoo hoo hoo. A moment later, Tan Yen fell asleep. So-min stood next to her bed and whispered, "After this time, we must have truly become friends." Suddenly, the phone rang. So-min saw that the caller was Vu Lam Lam. He didn't understand why she called him so late. So-min gently closed the door and went out to answer the phone. Inside the phone, Lam Lam quickly asked, "So-min, right? What's wrong? Is the old phone I gave you okay to use?" So-min immediately replied, "It's okay, better than my previous phone." Lam Lam was now sitting on the bed talking on the phone to So-min. "So why don't you accept my friend status yet? I've already helped you register a WeChat account. You can open it and use it." So-min was confused because he didn't know how to use this phone yet. Hearing that, Lam Lam laughed loudly. "Then you should get acquainted soon. Tomorrow I want to ask you to go out to eat with me. Are you free?" So-min happily agreed. "Fried chicken? I already received the discount coupon you gave me. Let's go." Lam Lam lay down, she replied. "At that time, I will come to pick you up. What to eat this time, it's up to me to decide." So-min immediately agreed to meet again tomorrow, then turned off the phone. After receiving So-min's consent, Lam Lam put his hand on his forehead, thinking, what does Grandpa mean by letting Uncle Hai give So-min a gift? He knew clearly that Uncle Hai and his father were equal but not satisfied. She thought that her grandfather's health had improved, so she wanted to return to the position of homeowner. After all, he is only 60 years old now. Before he was just affected by a genetic disease. Lam Lam seemed bored when having to live in such a large family. "It's so annoying." Returned to So-min's apartment. Right now he was scrolling through photos of girls that Chu Hao had found and sent to him. Looking at the girl in the picture, So-min couldn't help but exclaim, "It's too unreasonable, isn't it? This foot pressing on my neck will choke me to death." So-min felt that Chu Hao's work was quite trustworthy. He had found out information about so many girls so quickly, but he still didn't know who his senior sister was. Then So-min was puzzled. He thought about the fact that Vu Lam Lam wanted to invite him to dinner, but he didn't say early or late. But later when Vu Truyanmin came to give him a gift, So-min wondered, with her intelligence, "I wonder what Lam Lam's purpose is." He felt that life after coming down the mountain became more and more complicated. So-min glanced at the girl's photos and thought to himself, "It seems that wanting to establish a sect under this mysterious mountain is not an easy task." Suddenly, So-min was startled when he saw a photo. This girl made him wake up immediately. In the picture, a red-haired girl is standing next to a black luxury car. In her hand, this girl also wears a bracelet with the symbol, that on the face. So-min was happy to finally find his seventh sister, but he was confused when he could only see half of the face, not knowing how to search. "I am not familiar with Tanjiang Chao. I don't recognize this place anywhere. It seems very high class." So-min immediately called Chu Hao to ask more. Chu Hao is currently playing mahjong. He asked So-min why he was looking for him at this hour. Seeing that So-min mentioned a photo, he immediately asked So-min to send that photo to him. After receiving the photo, Chu Hao looked at it carefully. This action made the mahjong players unhappy and urged him to hurry up. On this side, So-min is also waiting for news from Chu Hao. After looking at the photo, Chu Hao immediately said to So-min, "This photo was randomly found by my brother online. I don't know where it came from. Should I call them and ask again?" Seeing Chu Hao working sloppily, So-min felt a bit annoyed. He asked harshly, "So you guys are looking down on me?" Hearing So-min's angry tone, Chu Hao quickly stood up, bowed and replied, "No. We dare not look down on you. I dare to guarantee my life. The person in this photo is definitely a girl with a first name and last name in Zhangchao City." This action caused the girl to show a disdainful expression and say, "Yo, it's so rare. Does Mr. Hao sometimes show this face?" On this side, when So-min heard that 7 sisters were definitely in Zhangchao, but suddenly he angrily threw down the phone and scolded, "Isn't there still no progress?" He lied down on the bed dejectedly and sighed. "I came to Zhangchao to find my sister." Then, as if suddenly realizing something, his eyes filled with sparkles. So-min happily thought that tomorrow maybe Vu Lam Lam would know where these high-class places were. Furthermore, with Lam Lam's level of intelligence, perhaps she could get to know senior sister 7. "I'm truly a genius." Early the next morning, Tan Yen woke up after smelling the aroma coming from the kitchen. She slowly got out of bed. When she opened the door and walked out, she saw So-min cooking and immediately asked, "What smells so good?" It turned out that the aroma came from the pot of porridge that So-min had just cooked. Tan Yen held a bowl of porridge in her hand and exclaimed, "It's so fragrant. If someone marries me, I will definitely be very happy." So-min humbly replied, "Actually, cooking is very simple. You just need to grasp the fire and not add anything haphazardly." The two people's conversation was interrupted by a series of car horns below. Tan Yen found the car horn very annoying, so he got up to go check it out. She looked out the window and saw a luxury car parked below. The driver is also a trendy girl. Hearing that, So-min felt guilty. "Vu Lam Lam said he would come pick me up today. Is that true?" Thinking so, he looked out the window. Outside is indeed Vu Lam Lam. She looked up and called out, "So-min, I'm coming to pick you up." Seeing Vu Lam Lam, So-min couldn't keep his mouth shut and spat out the entire bowl of porridge. So-min hurriedly ran out the door, not forgetting to say back, "I'm going. Just leave the dishes in the kitchen. I'll go home and wash them." Tan Yen was left alone and felt lost. She thought to herself, maybe he and I are really not from the same world. Below, Vu Lam Lam honked loudly, "Let's go. Before going to eat, I'll take you for a walk." She pulled up her trendy sunglasses and said proudly, "Our southwestern key town of Huaxia, Jiangzhou City." Lam Lam drove so fast that So-min in the car panicked. So-min kept shouting, too fast, you drove too fast." While driving, Lam Lam asked, "I didn't expect you to live outside Circle 4. What are you doing so far away?" So-min nervously replied, "It's the house my master found for me. Even though it's a bit far, it's still very comfortable." So-min said while thinking, "This is the first time I ride in this type of car. It seems like it's not soundproof. I can't listen to music." Vu Lam Lam heard that and immediately suggested, "But it's outside the fourth circle, quite far from the city center. Do you want to stay at my place? The rent, electricity and water are completely free. Besides, I'm also free now. I don't have to go to school. I can take you out anytime." So-min smiled and replied, "No need. As of now, it's still very good." So-min refused because he didn't come here to play, but to find Senior Sister 7 then start a sect. Moreover, he also did not want to live off the land. He turned to look at Lam Lam and thought to himself, this girl is very smart. She knew she could rely on her medical skills. After all, free things are the most expensive things. Hearing So-min say that, Lam Lam did not want to make things difficult for him. She suggested, "You can play as much as you like today. Let Vu Lam Lam pay the money." Having said that, she stepped on the accelerator and drove away. While Vu Lam Lam was extremely excited, So-min next to him was scared to death. A moment later, the car stopped at a shopping mall. Seeing the trendy car, the guard couldn't help but be startled. At this time, Lam Lam got out of the car. She threw the car key to the security guard and said, "Help me park the car. I'll go to the lobby to get the key later." As for So-min, he is still struggling to know how to open the car door. Master hasn't taught him all of this, and it's not available online either. Lam Lam stepped forward and pressed the button to help So-min open the car door. She said proudly, "This car is a bit unstable. The door is not easy to open." "You are not the first." So-min scratched his head shyly. "Thank you. I almost wanted to jump out of the car." Lam Lam then pulled So-min inside to buy clothes. This pulling action made So-min a bit shy. Seeing that, Lam Lam immediately pulled him along. Once inside, Lam Lam immediately introduced, "This is the best shopping center in Jiangzhou. There are many zones with all kinds of luxury items." After that, she introduced a series of fashion brands, Prada, Hermes, Armani. After hearing this, So-min did not understand anything. He wondered, what did she say just now? Why didn't I understand? He scratched his head in confusion and replied, "Actually, I think what I'm wearing is okay." Looking at So-min from top to bottom, Lam Lam commented, "That's because you haven't recognized your own beauty yet." Having said that, she held his hand again. Lam Lam smiled and said, "Then let me choose today's clothes." This action made So-min blush. The first store Lam Lam led to made So-min feel that it was a bit more mature than him. As for the second shop, So-min felt it was a bit trendy because he is quite traditional. Seeing that So-min did not like trendy or mature clothes, Lam Lam immediately pondered. A moment later, she came up with an idea. So-min finally chose a set of clothes for himself. At this moment, So-min no longer looked like a new farmer on the street. So-min commented that this set seems to be quite good. Lam Lam next to him exclaimed, "I knew right away you would like it." The female salesperson looked at So-min and commented, "This outfit really looks like it was tailor-made for you. I wonder if you will like it if you try it on." Even though she said that, in her heart the female employee expressed contempt for So-min. "It's so annoying. Looking at this guy's poor appearance, how can he afford to buy it? This girl's makeup is also trendy, but my place sells men's clothes, not women's clothes." So angry, tried all day but couldn't buy it. What a waste of your time. At this time, So-min felt satisfied and asked the price. The salesperson immediately replied, This set includes the latest limited edition undershirt, jacket, pants and sneakers on the market. Total is 7,699 yuan. 22% discount for members. Having finished speaking, the salesperson thought to himself, acting condescending. Even if I knew the price, a poor guy like you wouldn't be able to buy it. After hearing the price, 7,699 yuan, Somin stood still and turned pale. He cursed in his heart. What the hell? The cost of food and clothing for a year for me and my 7 masters is not even that much. Luckily, Lam quickly paid for Somin. This surprised the female employee. She immediately invited Lam to come over and scan the code. She was extremely confused in her heart. Oh my god, this was the first time I saw a woman paying a man. I don't understand where this girl scores him. Is poverty indescribable? But then she still raised the scanner to scan the payment code. After scanning the payment code, Lam immediately asked the female employee to repackage it. Receiving the money, she nodded vigorously. Leaving the store, Somin asked confusedly. Just now you could pay with just one scan? Lam immediately turned around and asked again. You still can't use WeChat? When I get back, I will teach you carefully, she also added. Look closely at your WeChat balance. I was worried that you didn't have enough money to spend, so I transferred some money. Somin looked at the balance in his phone. He started counting, tens, hundreds, thousands. Then he was dumbfounded when the balance reached 10,000. This amount of money could crush Somin to death. Suddenly, Somin shouted to the crowd. 100,000! When the crowd heard that, they were confused and wondered. What are you shouting about? Is it that bad? Somin's face turned pale. He pointed at the phone and asked again. Is this money or a number? Lam smiled complacently. Of course it's true. Didn't I use my phone to help you buy clothes just now? Seeing the money, Somin immediately gave the phone back to Lam. He refused. I can't accept it, you take it back. Kindness is like a mother. I don't accept money unfairly, Lam quickly replied. This is not unfair money. This is money for saving your life to me that day. Seeing that Somin didn't understand, Lam immediately explained. That day at the train station, didn't you say I had a bloody accident and had to stay away from people wearing green clothes? Only then did Somin remember. Lam recounted the incident that day. Her car had an accident. She didn't expect that changing her clothes would actually help her avoid a disaster. Lam recalled a few days ago. At that time, the car in which Don was carrying Lam and his nephew collided with another car. Don stuck his head out and shouted loudly. Do you know how to drive? Turn right and go straight, do you understand? Did you just get your driver's license? On the opposite side, an assassin stuck his head out of the car. He loaded the gun, preparing to finish Don off. Don saw the gun and was scared. Lam quickly asked. Don, is your family's enemy? Don replied in fear. I don't know. But then the assassin was startled when he saw Don wearing a black dress. He took back his gun and said, Intelligence said today's target was wearing blue clothes. Looks like we found the wrong person. After that, they quickly drove away. Don sighed and said, The clothes are blue. If I hadn't changed my clothes, I would have been in danger. Then she hugged Lam and thanked her. Thank you for saving my life. Lam was extremely shocked. She thought, unexpectedly, what Somin said was true. That doctor is also, this time also. Could he be able to predict the future? Back to reality. After reminiscing and telling Somin, Lam said, Even though you saved my life last time, that time the pursuer still couldn't find out. The police and the Vu family both took action but still got nothing. Somin immediately asked. So you want me to help you read the hexagram and find out information about that murderer? Lam nodded to confirm. That's right. If we don't find the final boss standing behind, Don could still be in danger. As a friend, I can't stand by and watch. Somin immediately clicked his fingers. Okay, I'll take a look. He recited the incantation. Gentlemen respect, ghosts and gods should stay away. Small people are afraid of ghosts and gods, so they are afraid to summon them. There is no fear, just pray for peace and safety, according to the destiny. His magical power is unparalleled. His weak body faces many disasters. Lam, who was nearby, saw this and was surprised. Is this one of the most mysterious fortune-telling techniques in Hoaha? Just a moment later, Somin finished his fortune-telling. Lam immediately asked. How? Somin began to explain. The hexagram shows that this matter has nothing to do with you. If you forcefully intervene, it will likely cause unpredictable effects, leading to even more serious consequences. Lam worriedly asked again. Is there no way to resolve it? She thought to herself. Don is my best friend. Even if it's not related to me, I still want to help him. Somin shook his head and refused. Sorry, I can't do it. Right now I can only predict the future. Lam sighed. She thought, it can be guessed, but there is no solution. Is it possible that the Dharma is not easy to transmit? The religion is not easy to accept, but people often say that you need to pay a very high price to do it. Thinking so, Lam Lam immediately pulled So Min's hand. She said, "Don't talk about this anymore. The time is almost here, let's go eat." So Min nodded in agreement. However, in his heart, he was worried about Lam Lam. Although he was a close friend, Don Don was also present without Vu Lam Lam knowing. Indeed, the fate of urban people is very complicated. Fortune-telling cannot be used easily. Then they both entered a restaurant with the sign, Tramvai. Seeing the beautiful women receiving guests, So Min was overwhelmed by the luxury of the restaurant. He thought in panic, just looking at it, he knew it was very expensive. Wouldn't it be more expensive than his clothes? Seeing So Min's confusion, Lam Lam immediately said, "Today I invited you, don't worry, follow me in. If you don't come in, you won't respect me, you won't consider me a friend." So Min also did not want to refuse. He grinned. "If you want to invite, I won't be polite." Both sat at the table. Lam Lam immediately ordered. "Famous dishes, 1 portion of each." The waitress immediately asked again. "There are only 2 of you, so you probably won't be able to eat it all." So Min immediately protested. "Who are you looking down on? I can eat as much as I want." He remembered the time in the mountains, when he alone ate half a wild boar. Lam Lam immediately signaled the waitress to serve the dish as usual. After confirming the order, So Min turned to ask Lam Lam, "You are so generous, your family is very rich, right?" Hearing that, Lam Lam smiled and asked, "What do you think?" So Min innocently replied, "The great master often said that having 1 million is a very rich family. Looking at your family background, your family must have 2 million, right?" Hearing that, Lam Lam couldn't hold back anymore and burst out laughing. 2 million, I'm dying laughing." So Min innocently asked, "Don't laugh, how much is it?" Lam Lam explained, "I can't say exactly how much money, but it's definitely a lot more than you imagine. Speaking of which, you saved the lifeline of my Vu family. Your medicine is very valuable. Useful, the genetic diseases of all the family's descendants are gradually recovering." Lam Lam raised 3 fingers and said, "We can meet your 3 requests. No matter what, as long as the Vu family can satisfy it." Hearing that, So Min clasped his hands in gratitude. He thought to himself, "That's not right. I read in novels, it seems like the young men coming down the mountain more or less know some of the identities of the elders from all over. But why don't I know anything about these characters? Could it be that the main characters secluded in the mountains still read financial and economic newspapers every day? So that's really strange." Although he said that, Lam Lam had another purpose in his heart. These 3 opportunities are not given to So Min for free. If this continues for a long time, So Min will also remember her. She thought to herself, master hunters always appear in a predatory way. The 2 were talking when suddenly a couple passed by outside. It's a purple-haired girl holding a man's arm. The purple-haired girl was surprised to see Lam Lam. She thought to herself, isn't that the Vu family's niece about to get engaged to her 3rd brother, Vu Lam Lam? Why is she eating with another man? What a big gut. She was angry. "This is clearly insulting my royal family." The man next to her saw her strange reaction and asked, "My precious princess, what's wrong?" This girl's name is Vang Tunan. She belongs to the Vang family. The family ranks 2nd in the top 10 families in Zhangchao City. Vang Tunan replied, "There is someone who dares to look down on my Vang family. Go find her and settle the matter with me." Vang Tunan kicked the door hard and walked in, loudly shouting, "Vu Lam Lam, you're really bold." Both So Min and Lam Lam were startled and turned their heads. Vang Tunan pointed straight at Vu Lam Lam and shouted, "You're clearly about to marry my 3rd brother, yet you're here seducing another man. You're shameless." When Vu Lam Lam was shouted at, she began to sweat. She thought to herself, "I didn't expect her to be here. How unlucky." Lam Lam worriedly thought, the Vang family holds a lot of goods and important assets of the Vu family, so it is impossible to turn against them. Moreover, today there is still So Min here. I can't let the matter between me and the royal family involve him. Lam Lam calmly turned around and smiled and replied, "This gentleman is just my friend. What does it have to do with Miss Vang if I go to dinner with him?" So Min saw Lam Lam's attitude like that. He thought to himself, "It seems that this prince's support is not small, otherwise Vu Lam Lam would not be able to smile like that after being scolded like that." Vang Tunan frowned and said, "Why is it unrelated? Who doesn't know that my 3rd brother has been eyeing you? You were already destined to be my 3rd brother's woman. Now you go out to eat with that man." Other guy. "That's embarrassing my 3rd brother." She leaned closer to Lam Lam and sarcastically said, "Besides, he's still a skinny man like this. Just looking at him, I knew he was useless. Or are you saying you like this style?" Lam Lam turned to object. "Do you think that everyone looking for friends looks at benefits like you do?" So Min heard that and was bewildered. "Friend? Taking advantage?" Vang Tunan angrily shouted. "You should stop pretending to be here. I don't care. Quickly tell this man to go away. Tell him to go away right now." So Min, sitting on the opposite side, felt very uncomfortable as the girl kept chasing her away. Vu Lam Lam still resolutely resisted. "What do you rely on? My friend is not the turn of others to point fingers and give orders," Vang Tunan shouted. Based on my third brother, I saw you. Isn't this reason enough? Vu Lam Lam's face darkened. She stood up and said, That's what your princes said themselves. I still don't agree, she said with a serious face and straight to Vang Tu Nan's face. Or are you saying that your Vang family still lives in a feudal society, getting married this way? Vang Tu Nan smiled cunningly. The little girl is fully feathered, isn't she? You still dare to argue with me. So today I will teach your cheating husband a lesson right in front of you. Having said that, she signaled her boyfriend behind her. He immediately approached So Min and provoked. Hee. So skinny, I only need one hand to take care of her. He grabbed So Min's collar and ordered. Stand up for me, brat. Then So Min gently punched him in the face, leaving him unable to react. Vang Tu Nan's boyfriend only got hit by one move and retreated far behind. His body trembled with pain. He asked in fear. It hurts so much. What did you do? So Min arrogantly stood up and replied. Of course I hit you in the face. The angry boyfriend rushed forward, intending to throw a punch in response. But So Min grabbed his wrist. He sent a stream of air straight into his arm. The other guy couldn't move his arms. He did not expect So Min's strength to be so strong. So Min checked this guy's wrist and said, strong on the outside, weak on the inside, weak kidneys. Dude, you have kidney failure. Hearing that, the other guy intended to use his other hand to throw another punch at So Min. But So Min gave him another slap, a gentle movement, but it caused him to fall backwards. After defeating her boyfriend, So Min came closer and said to Vang Tu Nan. Girl, you probably don't understand what kidney failure is. Let me translate for you. Then So Min began to explain. Just use the gun tip too many times, of course it will corrode. The hardness is also not good, just touching it will break. Vang Tu Nan was extremely shocked. She thought to herself. How does he know? In recent days, this man has really performed very poorly. The boyfriend quickly spoke up to clarify. Princess, don't listen to his nonsense. I'm really just too tired, So Min continued thoughtfully. Judging from his pulse, he probably used the gun 2 hours ago. If it wasn't you who pulled the trigger, I suggest you pay attention to that part of him. That's right, WeChat. When Vang Tu Nan heard that, he began to get jealous. She asked So Min again. Are you sure? So Min immediately replied. If you see it yourself, don't you know? These words made the boyfriend start to get scared. After listening, Vang Tu Nan turned to ask for her boyfriend's name. Give me the phone. He looked at her, and his whole body trembled. This boyfriend has no choice but to deny it. He immediately jumped up and ran away, determined not to give it. Vang Tu Nan was startled and shouted. Hey brother, don't run away. Vang Tu Nan's face turned red. She grabbed the knife and shouted while chasing. Stop, give me the phone. Lam Lam stood there observing all this time, and now he expressed his admiration for So Min. Haha, you are really interesting. So Min immediately sat down and replied. It's not me who's interesting, but the couple just now is very interesting. At that moment, the waitress popped her head out and asked. Hello, customers. Can we order now? Lam Lam immediately told her to put it up. So Min's expression at this moment was extremely excited. The waiter began to put countless delicious dishes on the table. Seeing so much food and the scent radiating from the nose, So Min's eyes lit up and his mouth drooled with hunger. He said, It's so fragrant. These are all dishes I've never eaten before. What are these dishes made from? Looking at So Min eating deliciously, Lam Lam gently said. Just now is actually my business. You don't need to take action, So Min replied while eating. Didn't you say I was your friend? My master Luke once said that when friends are in trouble, they must help each other. Having said that, So Min immediately ate a very delicious piece of meat. When Lam Lam heard that, his heart was extremely excited. For the first time in her life, she had a friend who dared to confront the royal family for her sake. So Min attentively ate deliciously. He asked Lam Lam, What kind of pork leg is this? Why is it even more delicious than the wild boar in the mountains? There is absolutely no feeling of fatty meat, nor is it difficult to chew like wild boar. It even has the taste of wild boar. Fish and meat, Lam Lam immediately explained, because this dish uses premium fish meat chopped into small pieces and then shaped into shapes. This thigh takes up to 5 pounds of fish meat to make. When So Min heard that, he was extremely surprised. He didn't expect that fish meat could be made into pork thighs. Regardless of So Min eating well, Lam Lam didn't eat anything but just brought his wrist closer to So Min and suggested. I'm very curious. Can Chinese medicine really see many things by checking the pulse? Like? Just now, I was able to accurately guess what that person did 2 hours ago. So Min smiled and replied. Of course. It's actually very simple. Hearing that, Lam Lam became excited and asked So Min to teach him. So Min thought for a moment and then said, Okay. With your qualifications, maybe after 10 years of studying you can be almost as good as me. Hearing that, Lam Lam was shocked and cried. 10 years. Isn't what you said very simple? So Min immediately replied. It's very simple. It just takes a long time to prepare. He immediately explained, the defect of national magic lies here. Any national technique needs to be accumulated day by day, the effect cannot be seen in a short time. Most modern people are impatient, impulsive, and can't wait. Lam Lam embarrassedly withdrew his hand and said, "Then I won't study anymore. Let's eat." She thought to herself. "Don't scold me anymore. I'm also like that." So-min also started to get to the point. "Actually, this time I came to ask you for help. If you feel a little bothered, I can use the 3 opportunities you promised." Lam Lam of course did not refuse. "Just say it. If you don't need to affect the Vu family's power, as friends, we have to help each other." So-min took out a photo of a person who looked like his sister and asked, "I want to ask you to help me see, where is this?" As soon as he saw the photo, Lam Lam was startled and exclaimed, "Isn't this under HSL company?" So-min nervously asked again, "Do you know this place?" Lam Lam nodded and replied, "There is no girl in Zhangchao who doesn't know. This is the headquarters building of the most famous cosmetics company in Zhangchao. Previously, Vu Jia also cooperated with them," So-min eagerly asked. "So do you know the girl in this photo?" "I think the Vu family once cooperated, so maybe Lam Lam is familiar with 7 sisters." Lam Lam looked at So-min and said curiously, "Of course I know. But why are you looking for her? Someone like her probably has nothing to do with you." So-min immediately replied, "She is my senior sister, 7th senior sister." He thought to himself, who says it's unrelated? The jade piece with the word that on her body is proof. Hearing So-min say that, Lam Lam was even more surprised. "The famous president of HSL company is your sister?" Hearing the words, president, So-min was sure that his sister must be a very powerful person. He stood up and asked Lam Lam, "Can you take me to find her?" Lam Lam nervously replied, "In the past, when we cooperated, my father came forward. The other person probably didn't know me. But for you, I can try." After that, they both drove to the headquarters of HSL company. On the way, So-min wondered, "About senior sister 7's story, how much do you know? Can you tell me?" Hearing So-min's question, Lam Lam was surprised. "She is your sister. Don't you understand her better?" So-min scratched his head in confusion and replied, "She came down the mountain when I was very young, so I basically didn't recognize her. I didn't even know her name. But for some reason, I had to go see her." Hearing that, Lam Lam thought to himself, it seems that So-min is not an ordinary stranger. The mountain, he said, was a place with many real mysteries. Lam Lam began to tell So-min what she knew about that senior sister. Her name was Kai Han Swang. She is a famous genius girl in Xinjiang Chao who suddenly rose to prominence last year. Lam Lam stepped on the accelerator and continued, from researching and developing key products suitable for the market, to negotiating commodity transactions, marketing and advertising the market, Kai Han Swang seems to be able to master everything. Palm. What a true almighty genius. In just 2 years, the small, unknown HSL company was brought to the rank of large company in the top 20 of Zhangchao city. Hearing Lam Lam say that, So-min felt that his 7th sister was truly a powerful person. Lam Lam continued, "But the scariest thing is that Kai Han Swang is only 23 years old. That is to say, she started leading HSL company to dominate the market when she was only 21 years old." Lam Lam also added, "The reason I understand her like that is because she is actually almost my idol." Lam Lam looked up at the sky and dreamed, "I also want to become a woman like her, standing at the top at the age of 20. So-min immediately encouraged Lam Lam, "I believe you can do it. You are also very smart." Lam Lam immediately replied, "If I hadn't been born in the Vu family, maybe I could have done it." She thought to herself, "So-min is very smart. He must have realized my recent attitude towards the royal family. That's why he didn't ask about the royal family just now." About to arrive at the HSL building, Lam Lam immediately told them to stop the conversation here. Finally, the car stopped at the foot of the HSL building. This is a very large building, spacious on all 4 sides. Lam Lam immediately introduced this as the headquarters of HSL company. So-min innocently told Lam Lam to go inside. As he walked, So-min smiled brightly, thinking to himself, "Does 7th sister work in a place like this? How awesome." Lam Lam quickly stopped So-min, but it was too late. She thought to herself, how can such a large company easily let outsiders in? Revealing company secrets is a felony. So-min walked to the door and was stopped by 2 bodyguards dressed in black. One person said, "Sir, please present your employee card." So-min was confused and didn't know what an employee card was. He told the bodyguard, "I don't have that." The bodyguard immediately reached out to block. "I'm sorry, it's not opening time for sightseeing. Anyone who is not HSL company employees is not allowed in," So-min sincerely suggested. "Then I won't go in. Can you help me contact someone? Her name is Kai Han Swang, she is my senior sister." The 2 bodyguards were surprised to hear the name Kai Han Swang. Then they both laughed loudly and sarcastically said to So-min, "You said our president is your senior sister. So the head of the Vong family of Zhangchao city is also my father-in-law, haha." So-min patted his chest and affirmed, You don't believe me? Then call my sister Kai Han Swang out here. Let her meet me and everything will be clear. I think that as long as I show the token, the monk will your sister notice. The two bodyguards began to call more people and warned So-min. If CEO Kai has to come to see people like me every day, how can he do his job anymore? Kid, don't be here and cause trouble. I advise you. Just one word, go away. An elderly-looking bodyguard stood behind him and quietly dialed his phone. He thought, it's for Mr. Kai, we have to tell Mr. Trong. The other end of the line immediately asked. Hello, what's going on? The man replied. Mr. Trong, it's me. When Mr. Trong heard that, he was a little confused. He looked at the photo while answering the phone. The middle-aged man announced that a man was coming. Listening to his tone, it seemed like he wanted to cause trouble with President Kai. The president here is Trong Chi, a member of the Trong family who is currently the deputy head of HSL Corporation. He didn't care and assigned his subordinates to chase So-min away. The middle-aged man immediately replied. Shouldn't I tell you about things related to President Kai? Otherwise I would have handled it myself. Trong Chi was very satisfied and praised him. Very good. In the future, no matter related to President Kai, you must not miss it. This middle-aged man bowed his head and agreed. Yes, definitely, he thought proudly. As long as he builds a relationship with President Truong, the job of security captain will sooner or later belong to him. Truong Chi is truly a genuine simp lord. He carefully looked at the photo of Kai Han Swang in his hand, thinking to himself. I'm the one who just joined this company. No one can take away this beautiful flower that I've seen. He held Kai Han Swang's photo and looked at it for a long time. Then he kissed the photo, telling himself that Kai Han Swang only belonged to him. Returned to So-min. He was trying to explain. I didn't lie to you. If you don't let me in, I will wait here, waiting for her to come out. A bodyguard spoke up. If you want to wait, just wait. Just don't walk through the door. But the middle-aged man didn't want that. He shouted. No way. Get out of here. Look at your poor appearance. Standing here affects the company's image. You thick skin, we HSL need face. The other bodyguards didn't understand why this guy was so impatient today. The middle-aged man told himself, I can't leave him here. If General Truong comes and sees that I haven't chased this guy away, he will definitely blame me for not handling it well. So-min was angry now. He protested. What do you mean? If I don't go in, you still want to chase me away? Are you trying to bite others like a crazy dog? This statement from So-min made the middle-aged man angry. He slapped So-min straight. This slap made So-min feel extremely angry. The man squeezed his hand and warned. If I tell you to go away, then go away. If not, I'll give you another slap. Lam Lam, who had been silent all this time, had to speak up. Stop! On what basis do you attack people? But So-min gently told her. Miss Vu, please look clearly. Then he showed a scary smile and said. They did it first. Seeing this expression of So-min, Lam Lam was a little scared. So-min grabbed the collar of the bodyguard who beat him with one hand and lifted him up. He looked angry. I've been holding back for a long time. The doctor is like a mother, but the medicine is also 3 parts poisonous. You scolded me the whole time. Do you really think I don't know how to get angry? The man was startled. He quickly ordered the remaining bodyguards. This guy dares to attack us. Where are you guys? Hurry and fight him. The remaining bodyguards began to surround. They thought to themselves, damn it, why did it come to this? Leave. After all, I'm part of the security team and can't be bullied by outsiders. The other man spoke up to challenge So-min. Hit me? If you have the ability, then you can hit me. This man has more than a dozen younger brothers. If you dare to attack today, we will beat your ass to pieces. As soon as his words ended, his whole body began to shake, and then he was satisfied. So-min immediately grabbed him and slammed him to the ground. Then he continuously threw punches at this guy's face and shouted. I have never heard such a despicable request. So let me satisfy you. Now I will beat your ass to pieces. Continuous punches went straight to the middle-aged man's face. The remaining bodyguards began to rush in and shouted. Hit him, brothers, hit him. Damn you, you brat is tired of living. So-min's eyes became cold. Immediately, he turned around and punched a bodyguard straight in the face. The second guy continued to get slapped in the face. The third name couldn't escape my face either. And the last person is still face. At this moment So-min is no different from a god killer. While beating So-min, he thought, beat the person who specializes in hitting the face, scold the person who specializes in scolding the mother. This is what Master Luke taught me. Behind him, Lam Lam watched So-min defeat each guy like that and thought, this guy has to find the best reason to beat someone. It's all part of his plan. Lam Lam feels that So-min has something. Being a wild person, yes, is wild, which urban people don't have. At this time, the bodyguards were beaten and could not get up. So-min looked at the bodyguards he defeated and waved his hand to challenge them. Get up. Keep fighting. The bodyguards lay on the ground, not daring to move. They thought to themselves, this guy is not a normal person. it would be better to pretend to be dead. I only get a few million a month, what's the point of risking my life? At this moment, there was a luxury car parked right in front of So-min and Lam Lam. Coming out of the car was a woman wearing glasses and red braided hair. She slowly walked forward and asked, "What's going on?" The middle-aged man's face was bruised and he began to scream. "Assistant Tran, someone beat us. Quickly call the police." The female assistant looked at So-min and then asked in surprise, "Did he beat dozens of you all alone?" So-min turned back to look at the female assistant with eyes filled with murderous intent. He asked coldly, "Are you also a member of this company?" This look sent chills down the assistant's spine. The female assistant was filled with confusion and fear. She quickly took out her phone to call the police. But then the car door opened and a voice said, "What's going on?" The person who just stepped out was Kai Han Swang. The female assistant quickly said, "Mr. Kai, someone is causing trouble in front of our company and has injured dozens of security guards." Kai Han Swang's aura radiated sky-high, coldly asking, "Injured dozens of guards? How many of them?" Assistant Tran immediately replied, "There is one person." Seeing Kai Han Swang, Lam Lam beamed and said to So-min, "She is Kai Han Swang." So-min slowly approached. He asked tentatively with an expectant expression, "Are you my seventh sister?" When Kai Han Swang saw the young man in front of him, he was confused and did not recognize who he was. The scene became confusing. Hearing So-min call his boss Kai, senior sister, Assistant Tran was confused. What kind of strange scenario is this? Why does President Kai have such a rustic junior brother? Kai Han Swang looked straight at So-min and asked, "You said I am your senior sister, do you have any proof?" Assistant Tran was even more surprised. She thought, "What is the situation?" Kai Tong actually admitted it. So-min searched for something in his pocket and said, "I brought a token, you'll know immediately when you see it." At this moment, So-min suddenly panicked and was gone. The token in So-min's bag has disappeared. So-min was shocked because he didn't know where he dropped it. He looked back and discovered his bag was torn. When President Kai saw So-min's appearance, his face turned serious. She warned, "I do have a junior brother. But if you have no way to prove your identity, then I can only report to the police. Also, if you kidnap my junior brother, I advise you to let him go." So-min looked sad and thought to himself, "It's over. Being thought of as a bad person by seven sisters. Or the type of bad guy who kidnaps me." Suddenly from behind, Lam Lam ran up and threw him the token he dropped, loudly calling, "It fell on the car, you idiot." So-min happily caught it. "Then say thank you." He immediately held up the credit card in front of Kai Han Swang. "Seventh senior sister, look." Seeing the token card, Kai Han Swang was startled. Next to her, Assistant Tran whispered to her, "Mr. Kai, should we call the police again?" Kai Han Swang immediately replied, "No need anymore. Go to work. I need to discuss things with this gentleman on the rooftop. Without my permission, no one will be allowed to bother you." Hearing that, Assistant Tran was stunned and thought, top floor. General Kai's personal office. Mr. Kai and I have been working for 3 years but have never been there even once. She thought to herself, could this person really be Mr. Kai's junior brother? Kai Han Swang walked up to So-min and asked him to come with him. The assistant Tran behind asked, "So what about those security guards?" Kai Han Swang coldly replied, "Dismiss everything." Assistant Tran was a bit startled, but she immediately did it. The bodyguards lay on the ground, extremely panicked. Lam Lam stood and observed all this time, showing surprise. Kai Han Swang is an extremely calm person, never acting on emotions before. But today, because of So-min, a dozen people were fired. The compensation this time is huge. It seems that So-min's master is real. Furthermore, the relationship between him and your senior sister is not as bad as you describe. They are not acquaintances at all. Lam Lam covered his face and imagined the scene of Kai Han Swang pressing close to So-min's body. Lam Lam secretly exclaimed, "This is clearly pampered to the heavens, do you know that?" The middle-aged man was miserable at that time. He thought to himself, "Damn it! But you fired me. President Truong, I have to ask you to help me take revenge." Thinking so, he immediately called Truong Chi. He quickly reported, "Mr. Truong, it's not okay. Something big has happened." Hearing the man's report, Truong Chi seemed dumbfounded. He asked again, "What did you say? She fired you? And even let a guy with an unknown background enter her private office?" He was angry. "Very good. Wait for my news." His heart was burning right now. "It's been almost a year since I've been at the company and I haven't even been able to step a foot into her personal office. That guy has an unknown background, but he was able to go directly. Enter." Thinking so, he angrily broke the phone in his hand. Then he slammed down on the table and asked himself, "Kai Han Swang, what kind of trick are you playing on me? Who is that man? You must definitely investigate. I'm sorry for the phone, I have it. What's wrong with this?" So-min was led by Kai Han Swang to her office on the top floor, floor 46. The door opened, and the inside was extremely luxurious and splendid. As soon as he entered the room, Kai Han Swang immediately told him. If you have anything, feel free to say it. She said that this is her personal space and will definitely not be disturbed by others. She was so busy talking that she didn't notice her junior brother's shocked expression. So-min looked around and exclaimed, "This floor looks like a flower garden." Kai Han Swang poured coffee and asked So-min, "Do you want coffee? Do you like bitter or sweet?" So-min looked around and replied, "Let's have a sweet drink." Having said that, in So-min's heart he thought, "I've always seen it online, but this is still the first time I've drank it." Master said this can be used as medicine? Kai Han Swang smiled and said to So-min, "Hey, I gave you a lot of sugar." So-min extended his hands politely to receive the cup of coffee. "Thank you, senior sister." So-min slowly took a sip, wondering what the taste would be like. Just taking the first sip, he stuck out his tongue. It was still so bitter. What else would it be like without adding sugar? Kai Han Swang approached So-min and asked, "So-min, were the days living in the mountains difficult?" So-min brightly replied, "It's not difficult at all. There are 7 masters living with me. I'm very happy." Kai Han Swang smiled. "Is that so?" Then suddenly she opened So-min's shirt to his surprise. So-min blushed. He was confused, not understanding what she was planning to do. It turned out that Kai Han Swang did not completely trust So-min. Only tokens are not enough. She seriously checked So-min's shoulder. She remembered when So-min was young, when he was still in his crib, constantly crying. At that time, there was an bull-shaped birthmark on So-min's shoulder. It also says that he is one of the 8 of us. So-min didn't understand what his senior sister was planning to do. As soon as they met, she took off his clothes. Seeing the birthmark, Kai Han Swang stopped being suspicious. She smiled and hugged So-min tightly, confiding, "Senior brother So-min, it's really you. Long time no see, I finally waited for you." So-min looked at the senior sister in front of him, and wondered, "Finally, I can wait for you. Is 7th senior sister always waiting for you?" So-min felt confused. It's really strange. Apparently the masters tried to hide 7th sister's aura, but 7th sister said that she was always waiting for her. He remembered when he used his fingers to calculate. This gave him constant headaches. This is not very logical. Seeing that So-min didn't seem to understand, Kai Han Swang immediately asked, "Senior brother So-min, you still don't know?" Then she held out her hand and said, "If you check my pulse, I'll naturally understand." So-min was confused, not understanding what was hidden in his sister's statue. Then they both sat down. So-min slowly checked Kai Han Swang's pulse. He was surprised. "Why is it like that? Do you masters know about this?" Kai Han Swang nodded and replied, "About my extremely cold physical condition, the masters all know. But the great master said that there is no way to cure my illness, but the little master has a way to be faithful. There is can cure me." When So-min heard that, he felt a bit annoyed, imagining the cunning look on his master's face. He thought to himself, the absolute coldness of the body is natural deficiency, one of the most difficult diseases recorded in ancient books. How many years have I been studying medicine? Even a veteran in the profession can't cure it. How should I treat it? Seeing So-min's expression like that, Kai Han Swang immediately asked, "What's wrong? Junior brother So-min, do you find it difficult?" So-min seriously explained, "In the medicine of Hoa Ha Kwak, there are 2 types of diseases that are the most difficult to completely cure. One is the natural defect, the other is the earth defect. The natural defect is a type of birth defect, but the physical condition is absolutely perfect. Cold is one of them. Every day, if you don't use suppressive medicine, your body will feel like it's falling into an ice cellar, as cold as ice and frost." Kai Han Swang nodded in agreement. Master also said that. He gave me medicine to suppress my physical shortcomings, but did not say how to eliminate them. Little junior brother, do you know why? So-min nodded and replied, "I know why. But the difficulty of implementing that treatment method is very high. Furthermore." Having said this, So-min suddenly hesitated. Seeing So-min's hesitation, Kai Han Swang immediately said, "Just say it straight." So-min hesitantly asked, "Is 7th sister married now?" Kai Han Swang thoughtfully replied, "Not yet. As a child I followed my master to study, then returned to the city and studied books for exams. When I went to university, I joined this company to work. Personal matters come here." "Haven't thought about it yet." So-min confusedly clasped his hands together and said, "The difficulty lies here. The method to cure extreme physical cold is to conduct double cultivation with someone who has a positive constitution." Hearing that, Kai Han Swang was startled and blushed. "Double cultivators?" So-min innocently explained. "It's literally dual cultivation. But there's no limit to men and women, just exchanging body fluids." Kai Han Swang's mind was spinning and asked, "So at least we need to kiss?" So-min slowly drank his coffee and replied, "That's right. Not only that, you also have to be exposed to it for at least half an hour, twice a day, for half a year, then there is hope of being cured." So-min thoughtfully drank his tea, thinking to himself, even someone as powerful as 7 sisters would feel very shy hearing such private matters. When Kai Han Swang heard that he had to practice double cultivation for half a year, he asked. Half a year is too long. She pondered for a moment, and then asked. Is there any way to shorten the time? When So-min heard that, he immediately spit out his coffee. He wiped his mouth and said, I still think you are asking if there is any method that does not require dual cultivation, is there? There are actually methods to shorten time. So-min looked serious and continued. That is more intimate contact and exchange of fluids in that direction. Let the two types of constitution fuse, yin and yang compensate. Kai Han Swang immediately said. I know. Master told me, I only have 1 year left to live. I don't have much time left. So-min looked at his sister and thought thoughtfully. Normally, children with extremely cold physiques have a hard time living to adulthood, and the rate of premature death is extremely high. The seventh senior sister can live until now. I'm afraid the masters have put a lot of thought into it. Perhaps this is also the reason why seventh sister risked her life to become famous at such a young age. Kai Han Swang stood up. She instructed So-min. Junior brother, you should rest first. I will arrange for someone to find someone who is physically positive. Thank you for helping me figure out this method. I will give it to the disciple that I kept. So-min put down the coffee cup and said, It's not urgent. Now we have to treat your illness first. Seventh sister, have you finished your preparations? Kai Han Swang turned around and asked. Do you have any other choice? So-min immediately smiled and said, Talking to senior sister 7 is very comfortable. No need to beat around the bush. I just recently met someone with new Duong's physique. Hearing So-min say that, Kai Han Swang was happy and quickly asked, Is he willing to help? I will offer a high price, So-min hesitantly said. There's no need to spend money, but she's a woman. As he spoke, So-min thought of Tan Yen. Hearing that, Kai Han Swang smiled and sighed. You're a woman. So can't you still keep your virginity? So-min smiled upon hearing that. Oh, I didn't expect that senior sister 7 is still a quite traditional woman, Kai Han Swang coldly replied. If you protect your virginity, you are also responsible for him in the future. Furthermore, only if you keep this idea in your heart, you cannot entrust your body to someone else. For me, this is the most important point. She clearly expressed her determination. At any time, she will not exchange her body for benefits. When So-min heard that, he was pleased. Indeed, his sisters were not inferior. He immediately stood up and instructed his sister. Then tonight I will go back and ask her for help. If she agrees, I will arrange for the two of us to meet. Please leave me your phone number. WeChat is fine. Kai Han Swang took out his phone and thought to himself. It seems that little junior brother is adapting quite quickly to life in the mountains. Looking at Kai Han Swang's friend request information on WeChat, she has the nickname. Will be the Great Tomb. So-min thought inexplicably, will he become Lang Tuet Din? He quickly pressed the button to agree to become friends. So-min couldn't help but admire his sister. What a workaholic she was. After the two added WeChat together, So-min turned around to leave, not forgetting to say. Then I'll go first. After the appointment, I'll contact you again. Kai Han Swang did not rush to ask again. Little junior brother, don't you ask me why the masters let me come find you? So-min was puzzled. Is it not to treat your illness? Kai Han Swang seriously replied. Yes, but not enough. In addition, I also have the important responsibility of assigning you the task of mastering our 7th Saint sect. So-min was confused when he heard that the 7th Saint Tong mission belonged to him. His face was full of doubt, and he asked again. Our sect's mission? At this time, Kai Han Swang began to explain. His sect is called that Saint Tong. Because my masters are all geniuses with the highest qualifications in the fields of national magic. My masters, respectively, are Medical Saint, Amulet Saint, Hexagram Saint, Gas Saint, Dance Saint, Vo Saint, and Dao Saint. According to them, they once shook heaven and earth, and had a glorious reputation among the gangsters in Hoa. So-min silently exclaimed. Then the 7 elders gathered together to form the now tattered 7 Saints sect. There wasn't even a decent door, just like a small, barren village. I deeply doubt that the earth-shattering period they talk about is something they went online to read and then made up. So-min respectfully clasped his hands. Then please 7th sister pass on to me the duties of the masters. Kai Han Swang immediately touched the bracelet. So-min, listen clearly. Then she took out a small scroll from the bracelet. Kai Han Swang started reading, My disciple So-min. To avoid your mind being bewitched by the city under the mountain, we have specially assigned tasks to you and Kai Han Swang. Within 3 months, you will accept a personal disciple, and the 7th sister will pass on to you a book of the 7 sacred sex treasures. Remember this carefully. After hearing this, So-min was a bit worried. Is it true that the masters want me to accept disciples? This is not easy to do. Coming down the mountain, I met a few people. Kai Han Swang gave the scroll to So-min. This is my test. If even my disciples can't get it, then why bother setting up a sect? So-min politely accepted it and replied. I will try. After finishing somewhere, Kai Han Swang suggested. Junior brother So-min doesn't have a job right now, right? Do you want to come to my company to work? Then she turned serious and said, "But I won't go through the back door for you. You have to pass the interview yourself. With your skills, getting into the security team probably won't be a problem." So-min patted his chest and said, "If you were really here, other people would say bad things about me. It doesn't matter if you relied on your strength to accept the position or anything. They would all say that you went through the back door." Then he turned and left, not forgetting to say to his senior sister, "With the character of Seven's senior sister, of course I won't like these rumors. Even if it's good, I won't like it either." Kai Han Swang looked at So-min's leaving back and thought, "I thought that the 7 masters would pamper this junior brother very much, but now it seems that she is more mature than I thought." Then she dialed the phone and thought, "As a senior sister, it's not okay to meet little junior brother and not show anything." On this side, So-min's phone suddenly rang. So-min saw his phone vibrating and took it out to check. Inside is the sister who just texted, "It's hard to go down the mountain. Sister will take me out for a delicious meal." Then came the announcement that Kai Han Swang had transferred him 10,000. So-min was startled when he saw the money. He exclaimed, "How much food do I have to eat all this?" So-min smiled and thought, "This is money my sister gave me. I can't help but accept it." The elevator opens. As soon as he stepped out of the elevator, he cheerfully sang, "I have money. Let's go buy food and make a table for dinner." Then talked to Tan Yen. Anyway, 7th sister's illness is treated by her. This is called spending senior sister 7's money, working for senior sister 7. When he reached the gate, he realized it was almost dark. So-min looked around and thought to himself, "Vu Lam Lam is probably already back, right? So this time I'll just have to jog home by myself." He lowered his head to look up Google Maps to see the distance from here to where he lived. Suddenly a voice rang out from behind, causing So-min to turn around in surprise. "You're finally out." From afar, Lam Lam waved his hand and walked over. She said, "Why do you have such a surprised look on your face? Don't you want me to wait here for you?" So-min expressed wonder. "Have you been waiting since noon until now?" Lam Lam winked mischievously. "If not, so what? Could it be that I traveled here from noon?" Hearing that, So-min felt a little nervous. He asked, "You won't wait for me from noon until now, will you?" Hearing So-min ask that, Lam Lam felt a little guilty. She shyly replied, "I'm just worried that you don't know how to get home. This place is quite far from your Belt 4 subdivision." So-min secretly thought, although Vu Lam Lam is sometimes too smart, her intentions are true. Thinking so, So-min immediately invited her to dinner. Receiving the invitation from So-min, Lam Lam brightly turned around and said, "That's great. What did you invite me to eat?" So-min happily took out the discount card and said, "Of course, go eat fried chicken." Seeing So-min like that, Lam Lam was confused. Don't you think that nowadays there are still boys who invite girls to eat children's food like that? But then she sighed and thought, it seemed like she didn't hate it at all. They both got in the car and left. The two did not know that above there was a schemer watching their car's shadow. "That person is Truong Chi. He is talking on the phone with his junior." The junior asked, "Mr. Truong, the boy sitting in that woman's car has already left. Do we need to chase him?" Truong Chi looked angry and ordered, "Chase and find a chance to kill it." The junior asked again, "Do we need to investigate his background a bit?" Truong Chi smiled smugly. "No need. In Zhangchao, no one dares to touch my Truong family." After giving orders to his juniors, Truong Chi immediately hung up the phone. He gritted his teeth and held the phone tightly. He thought to himself, this time dare to enter her personal office, next time enter her house. So where has the Truong family's dignity gone? He had long informed his friends that he must have Kai Han Swang. Then he broke the phone again angrily. "I don't want second-hand women. Mom stole my Truong Chi's woman." Looking for death, returned to So-min and Lam Lam. The two went to the fried chicken shop. Lam Lam introduced this as Wallace's headquarters. So-min happily said, "Can I eat fried chicken until I'm full?" He opened the door and walked in. As soon as he smelled the fried chicken, So-min smiled and said, "It's really fragrant. I can already smell it at the door." Lam Lam reminded him, "Go inside and order." The two were so busy walking in that they didn't notice the eyes of a few people watching. A hand pushed hard on the car door. The middle-aged man was fired by Kai Ham Swang and walked out with the thugs. The man's voice was cold. "See, that guy is the target." He raised the sharp knife and ordered his juniors, "Everyone pay attention. If you find an opportunity to directly tie up, cut off the kidneys and sell them to foreign countries, you will have completed the work assigned by General Truong, and there will be more. A sum of money. I'm truly a genius." At this time, Truong Chi was sitting in the room. His female secretary came in and gave him a new phone. Suddenly, he yanked the secretary's hand back. Then he hugged her into his arms. Then he smiled and said, "If that woman can be caught as easily as you, that would be good." Truong Chi held the female secretary in one hand and held the phone in the other to call someone, ordering, "I need your help with something. Once done, I'll pay your daughter's hospital fees for 2 years." However, the name on the phone did not answer immediately. Truong Chi was also silent, waiting calmly. The secretary next to her was also surprised by the attitude of the person on the phone and Truong Chi's patience. A moment later, the person on the other end of the line replied, "I don't kill people, but I can destroy them." Hearing that, Truong Chi showed a cunning look on his face and said, "Okay. I will send you its information and address." Then, he turned off the phone. Truong Chi grabbed the secretary's neck, thinking to himself, "It's just a tool. But now you want to bid me a price." Then he squeezed harder, making the secretary tremble. He smiled and said, "If you do it, then you have to do it. Those guys are at best just scoundrels, very likely to fail. But as long as you invite him to take action, even that guy has 10 lives. Insufficient." At the same time, at the hospital, there was a little girl lying in a deep coma. This girl seems to be very sick. The man who had just talked on the phone with Truong Chi also showed up. It was a muscular man looking out the window and thought. He pondered, "In order to treat Nana's illness, I have done too many things that are hurtful and harmful. Help Truong Chi finish this matter. I will withdraw my hand." The phone rang. He picked up his phone and looked at the photo of the person he needed to take down. That is So-min. Looking at So-min, the man said to himself, "Little brother, I'm sorry." Returned to the fried chicken shop. At this time, So-min and Lam Lam were waiting in a long line to order food. So-min exclaimed, "It was truly delicious food, there was such a long queue." Lam Lam seems to rarely eat these popular dishes. Therefore, she found it difficult to understand that for just a popular dish, people lined up so long. At this time, it was a fat young man's turn to order food. This person pointed to the menu board and said, "I want to choose a spicy lotus chicken thigh size M." The male employee saw that this person pointed to one type but chose another, so he asked again, "Sir, this is size M, size L, size XL. May I ask which type do you want to choose?" The fat young man started to get angry. "I just want size M in here." Behind, So-min and Lam Lam felt that this fat guy was rude. The male employee still calmly replied, "The one you chose is size L. The smallest one is size M." Then, the male employee raised his hands. He started gesticulating and explaining, "That big one is size XL. At this time, both So-min and Lam Lam found these two people to be rude and wasting all their time. After a while of not being able to order food, the fat young man angrily turned around and left, not forgetting to leave behind a few curses. Next, it's So-min and Lam Lam's turn. The male employee immediately asked the two what they wanted to eat. Seeing the situation of the young man just now, So-min immediately said while waving his hands to describe, "I want to eat 2 of these meals size XL." Lam Lam next to him also gave him a like. "Good job." The male employee did not ask any more questions. He immediately agreed to let the two of them go. The expressions on So-min and Lam Lam's faces were extremely confusing. A moment later, 2 large portions of food appeared on their dining table. So-min quickly ate like he was starving. So fragrant, crispy and fragrant, so creamy. As for Lam Lam, he slowly sipped some potatoes, reminding him, "Eat slowly." At that time outside, a middle-aged man and his juniors walked in. They glanced at So-min and Lam Lam who were having a meal. The junior leaned close to his ear and asked, "Big brother, do you want to do something here?" The middle-aged man frowned. "Is your brain broken? There are so many people here, how can you escape?" Then they all sat down, quietly observing So-min, waiting for an opportunity. At this time, Lam Lam also discovered them. She reminded So-min to turn around and look. Realizing that So-min turned his head to look at him, the group of people began to pretend to whistle, pretending they didn't know them. When So-min saw them, he immediately asked himself, "Isn't this the group of security guards that I taught him earlier? Why are they here?" But Lam Lam turned out to be pointing in another direction. She said, "Who told you to look at them?" "Over there." So-min turned his head to look in the direction Lam Lam pointed. It was a handsome young man and a stylishly dressed, slightly plump older woman. So-min saw the old woman and wondered why this fat lady was so familiar. Lam Lam slightly covered his mouth and chuckled. The rich lady raised little white keem. "But we can still meet it here." So-min immediately wondered. "It seems that boy is a bit reluctant." Lam Lam immediately replied, "It's all about money." Suddenly the fat lady's face changed and she coughed. The fat lady kept coughing, causing the young man next to her to turn and ask, "Baby, what's wrong with you?" But who would have thought that even though he asked like that, this young man was smiling cunningly in his heart. He thought to himself, exactly as I predicted. At that time, the fat lady fell to the ground, clutching her chest, coughing continuously. The young man pretended to shout loudly, "Help! Call an ambulance for me!" He screamed at the staff. "My lover has a respiratory illness. If I'm late, you guys won't be able to pay for it." Hearing that, the staff also panicked and called an ambulance. Lam Lam looked at the woman and asked, "Respiratory disease? I see her neck is swollen. Will it not be contagious?" So-min calmly ate and said, "It's not an illness, it's poisoning." Hearing that, Lam Lam was stunned. "Poisoned?" Only then did So-min slowly explain. "The toxicity of wind pharynx especially causes the blood vessels in the throat to expand, the trachea to become narrow, and if you are not careful, you will choke on your food." Although this poison will not die immediately, but would gradually accumulate in her body. Her face would turn blue and black due to lack of oxygen, and the toxins would soon be ingrained in her blood. After explaining, So-min continued. So, the person who poisoned her may have already attacked her? Lam Lam worriedly asked. What do you mean this is an assassination? At this time, suddenly a voice came from the next table. That's right. So-min was startled and turned around to see a mature man with a beard. He said, this young man's guess is not wrong. This condition is exactly showing signs of chronic toxicity. So-min stood up and asked politely. Senior, are you a doctor? The man pushed up his glasses and replied. Senior, it's been a long time since I heard that kind of address. That's right, I'm also a doctor. At this time, the staff member started shouting. Is there any guest who is a doctor? Can you come and examine this guest? It seems like she is about to not be able to last anymore. On this side, the evil boyfriend stood next to him and cursed. Die. Die quickly. I used your fingerprint to fabricate property transfer documents. Now that you're dead, all your things will be mine. The doctor immediately asked So-min. Do you need to go there and see? So-min of course nodded. The doctor reminded, in this era, the relationship between doctors and patients is very tense. There are no testing equipment, medicines, or surgical instruments here. The rate of untimely emergency treatment is very high. Furthermore, he was blamed by the patient's family. So-min turned around and replied. Saving one life is better than building 7 towers. As he approached the fat lady, he said to the doctor. My great master said that if you don't even have the courage to save injured people, then you are not worthy of the title of doctor. Hearing So-min say that, the doctor also started to think again. Is saving one life better than building 7 towers? As soon as he stood up, he thought to himself. This is the first time I've been taught a lesson by a kid, then waved to So-min. They both went to the fat lady to take a look. Behind them, Lam Lam looked at their backs and smiled. There's always something very different about them. So-min bent down to check on the woman. The doctor immediately asked him. How is the situation? So-min turned the fat lady's eyes open and replied. The breath is coming out but not coming in. At most, I can only last another 5 minutes. The boyfriend shouted loudly. Who are you? Don't touch my girlfriend. The doctor immediately raised his head and said. He and I are both doctors. Weren't you asking for help just now? The awkward boyfriend. Does this shabby restaurant even have a doctor? The doctor carefully examined the oral cavity. As for So-min, he slowly checked his pulse. Looking at these two guys diligently checking his girlfriend, the boyfriend thought to himself. No matter how you guys look at it today, she must die. Once this poison takes effect, if you don't get to the hospital within 10 minutes, you will definitely die. He smiled wickedly. Even if you are a doctor, without equipment, without an operating table, without medicine, you can only roll your eyes and watch her die. The doctor then concluded. If you want to save her, the only way is to immediately perform a tracheostomy. But there is no hospital nearby. I'm afraid there won't be time. Hearing that, the boyfriend chuckled. It's exactly as I thought. Yet So-min affirmed. No, there is still a way. Hearing that, the doctor was extremely surprised. So-min seriously asserted. Burn talisman paper to let her drink. Everyone began to panic. Burn talisman paper. In what era do we still do this kind of old-fashioned thing? Young man, are you okay? The boyfriend's name is even more flattering. He thought to himself. Burn talisman paper? You make me laugh to death. Burn it. Wait for it to die. Chronic toxicity seems to be unchecked anymore. But I found a replacement sheep. He looked towards So-min and thought. And didn't you come to sacrifice yourself? He began to cry and beg. My girlfriend is now at death's door. No matter what. Sir, I'm counting on you. So-min raised his head and said. Bring paper and pen here. Then he began to recite the incantation, inhabiting the 5 thunders, divine generals, and electricity and light. One is to protect life, the other is to ward off evil spirits. He wrote it down on paper before everyone's bewildered eyes. So-min continued to write. All life and death depend on heaven. Only I am immortal. I immediately obey. The boyfriend stood outside watching with satisfaction, pencil and flyer. Using these things to save people is truly miraculous. Later, the old man told this experience at the wine table. It would definitely be fun. However, Lam Lam always believed in So-min. She secretly wondered what ability So-min had recently displayed. The other doctor shook his head in frustration. At first I thought he was a medical university student. Now it seems he just guessed his condition by chance. After finishing writing the talisman, So-min asked the staff to bring out a glass of water and a lighter. He looked at the fat lady lying motionless and whispered. Auntie, I will save you immediately. After that, So-min immediately burned the talisman paper. Then he dropped the talisman into the glass of water. He stood up Mrs. Bio and gave her a glass of water to drink. The fat lady with an annoyed look on her face drank So-min's glass of water. The doctor saw this unrealistic scene, frowned, turned away and thought, what a risk. The boyfriend silently dialed the phone. He thought to himself, superstitious in front of so many people, using paper as medicine. There are so many people watching, and there are cameras too. You brat, I'm calling the police now, you're probably dead. Yet the fat lady woke up again, then coughed. She opened her eyes and asked, "What's wrong with me?" Everyone was extremely surprised by this unexpected incident. The boyfriend's face turned pale. How is this possible? The doctor couldn't believe his eyes either. He thought, but I'm really awake. The boyfriend stood there dumbfounded looking at his lover drinking So-min's glass of water. He thought to himself, it's cured. How can such a brat be cured? I've been poisoning myself for half a year now. The doctor asked himself, at first, I thought this water only had a placebo effect. I didn't expect it could actually save people. I despise this boy, I despise this world. Lam returned to the table and sat down, smiling happily. So-min is so great. He knows everything. But she suddenly thought, maybe besides giving birth he couldn't do other things. On this side, the fat lady turned to ask So-min. Hey kid, did you save me? It seems like I was choked by the food at this restaurant. So-min turned to look at her boyfriend and said, Auntie, you're not suffocating, you're poisoned. The fat lady heard that and panicked. Poisoned? Am I poisoned by something? Are the hamburgers from this restaurant poisonous? The male employee shook his head frantically. Madam, you can't say that. So-min pointed straight at her evil boyfriend with a serious face. It's not that this restaurant's hamburgers have a problem. It was he who poisoned her. When the young man saw it pointed towards him, he looked panicked. Everyone turned to look at the boyfriend's name, while the fat lady still denied. It's impossible. How could my treasure poison me? The boyfriend screamed. Don't be so bloody. I love my girlfriend very much. Honey, he actually slandered me. You have to believe me. The fat lady turned to So-min and said, That's right, young man. Don't blame good people. I see there's a problem with this restaurant's food. Hearing that, the staff explained wholeheartedly. Ladies, that's not true. Our food has all passed 3 tests. The goods were just delivered this morning. All are fresh. The doctor then spoke up. I am a doctor at Jiangzhou First People's Hospital. I can testify that what this young man said is the truth. Having said that, he took out a business card from his shirt with the name Tu Min Tui. He sat down and explained to the fat lady. You have been chronically poisoned for a long time. Just go to the hospital for a thorough checkup and you will immediately recognize the problem. At this time, the hospital ambulance also arrived. The doctors loudly called out, Where is the patient? Causing the boyfriend to panic. The fat lady was now suspicious. She asked her lover again. Baby, is everything they said true? The boyfriend right now doesn't know how to deny it. He thought to himself. Disgusting. My plans have been ruined by you rotten boy. Thinking so, he immediately opened the door and ran away. Must escape first. A moment later, the fat lady was carried to the ambulance. At this moment, a sound of applause rang out. So-min turned back bewildered. Everyone around began to applaud. You're so good, brother. I didn't expect our Huaxia tradition could actually save people. So good, Marshall. You studied cultural traditions, right? That's really good. This could be on the news. So-min saw that he was being praised and sheepishly scratched his head. Tu Min Tui also applauded. Boy, you overturned my perception. It really opens people's eyes. So-min coldly replied. Sir, the Chinese national art tradition has existed for thousands of years, and there is a reason for it. If you carefully and seriously learn about it, you will understand what it is like. How? So-min solemnly declared. In this day and age, proverbs passed down from ancient times to modern times only say half a sentence. But the real meaning inside is not only that. I hope to be able to make Huaxian nation revive in this era. Tu Min Tui praised. Very good, very good. He took out one of his business cards and gave it to So-min. If you want to study medicine, you can call me. I can break the rules and accept you as my graduate student. So-min raised his hand to receive the business card and thanked him. Behind him, the middle-aged man did not understand why So-min instantly became a hero. The juniors were now confused and asked their big brother. It seems like he really has the ability. Wouldn't it be a bit unfortunate if we kept beating him to death like that? The man immediately turned and shouted. Don't forget who paid you. Now you can't even kill yourself if you want to. You know the boss's tricks. After finishing everything, So-min returned to the table. Lam immediately asked. Are you back, great hero? So-min said shyly. Do you also want to laugh at me? Lam said seriously. I didn't laugh at you. Just now you ignored everyone's suspicions to save people. It's really cool. I even have a feeling of worshipping you. You really know how to do anything. So beneficial. So-min grinned. If you want to learn, I can teach you too. Lam heard that and raised his hand and said. Then let's twist our hands. So-min waved Lam's hand and thought, is this considered holding a girl's hand? They both then waved their hands. Lam reminded him that he still had to stamp. She smiled happily. Don't forget me in the future. Suddenly, Lam's phone rang. Lam picked up the phone to answer. Her expression suddenly changed. I know. I'll be right here. She quickly stood up and left, not forgetting to tell So-min. Maybe I have to go back to the family now, I can't take you away. Something suddenly happened at my house. Looking at Lam Lam's urgent appearance, So-min frowned and thought. Now I suddenly want to return to the Vu family. Could it be that the Vong family's girl is coming to the door to cause trouble? Lam Lam then quickly left. So-min also followed her to see her out the door. Seeing that, the bodyguard's thugs also silently followed So-min. Lam Lam climbed into the car, not forgetting to turn around and apologize to So-min. I'm so embarrassed. I'll see you later. So-min calmly calculated with his hands, then smiled and reassured Lam Lam. From your fate, nothing major will happen this time. No need to worry too much. Lam Lam also calmed down somewhat. She thanked So-min. Then I will borrow your wishes. While driving away, Lam Lam thought. The Vong family is really at the door. Grandpa's tone on the phone was very serious. She clenched her fists, frustrated in her heart. My Lam Lam's life. Do we really have to be under the control of the Vong family? Returned to So-min. At this time, he obediently waited at the bus stop. While waiting for the car, So-min thought, Lam Lam took me too far to this place. Looks like I can't run home. It's better to take public transportation. At this time, the thugs following So-min began to reveal their plot. They pushed aside passers-by and approached So-min. When So-min saw them, he frowned and thought, isn't that the security guard who caused trouble for me in the morning? So-min was alert. I wonder what they want to do. At this time, the middle-aged man pressed a knife into So-min's back and threatened, brother, I'm looking for you for something. So-min was not afraid at all. He thought to himself, so this guy is a daredevil. It was right for Seventh Sister to chase him away today. He glanced back, looked at him and said, don't act here. There are many people here. No matter what happens, you can't run away. The man smiled cunningly. Wow, I didn't expect you to be so aware of the times. Then he pointed towards the small alley and ordered. Then go to the small alley next door. Don't do any tricks, otherwise I will make you bleed. At the same time, the bus also passed by. After the bus left, the group of people and So-min also disappeared. A moment later, they controlled So-min to a small alley. The man approached So-min and said, this place is very suitable to see you off. So-min sighed. He asked again, if you want me to die, then I should know the reason. Is it because I beat you in the company today? The man laughed loudly. Just because you hit me, I want to kill you. Do you consider this man a perverted murderer? So-min asked confusedly. Then why? Besides this, it seems like you and I don't have any enmity. The man then opened his mouth to say the reason. Who told you to touch Mr. Chi's woman? So-min was even more confused. Mr. Chi's woman? Who is it? The man immediately replied. The person she saw right away is Kai Han Swang Kai Tong. Hearing that, So-min was stunned. He didn't expect that his seventh sister would be noticed by evil tyrants. Without further hesitation, the man immediately raised his hand and intended to stab a knife at So-min. He shouted, this knife is to repay you for making this man lose face in front of everyone, and also causing him to be sent away. But So-min quickly dodged his fatal stab. The man was startled and looked at So-min. Was he flying? At this time, So-min raised his hand and responded with his bare hands. With just one blow to the head, the leader fell over and fainted. Seeing that the big brother was defeated, a few disciples then rushed in. They shouted, don't touch our big brother. So-min's face turned serious. He thought to himself. Their movements were slow, revealing many loopholes. Then in just a blink of an eye, So-min defeated all of them. He then stomped his foot on the man's chest. He asked in a cold voice, tell me, who is Mr. Chi in your mouth? The man immediately waved his arms and legs and shouted, Mr. Chi is someone you can't mess with. He's from the Truong family, one of the 10 great families of Zhangchao City. So-min thought to himself. Is the Truong family a family of the same rank as Vu Lam Lam's family? So-min stomped even harder, questioning him, causing the big brother to continuously moan in pain. So-min frowned and asked, where is that name? As he asked, So-min said to himself, no matter what family, if you want to cause disadvantage to senior sister, you must pass your own hurdle first. The man moved his lips to reveal Truong Chi's location. Suddenly, from behind So-min, a tall man's silhouette appeared. He pointed the gun at So-min's head and warned, don't talk. If you say it, Chi will make you die. So-min was surprised. He didn't expect him to silently appear behind him. This person really has some bravery. The man lying on the ground was quickly agitated. Sure enough, Mr. Chi sent his brothers to support him. Brother, quickly open fire. Beat this kid to death. Damn, he stepped on me and it hurts so much. The man shouted loudly. Brother, why don't you shoot? If you don't dare, give me the gun. The other person coldly shouted. You guys, get out. I will handle the next things. The man and his juniors stood up and slowly approached. He warned. Brother, this kid has no small skills. We will help you deal with him. Don't let him have a chance to turn the situation around. So-min was a bit worried at this time. He thought to himself, this distance cannot guarantee bullet avoidance. If I get stabbed a few more times, I won't have a chance anymore. The big brother aggressively rushed forward and threatened. You stepped on it really well just now, right? Now I will make you pay. But before he could finish speaking, something passed by that startled him. He quickly turned around and asked, Big brother, what do you mean? It turned out that the other man had given a warning blow. He threatened, Don't make me say it twice. Get out. The big brother and his juniors were so scared that their faces turned pale and they quickly left. They did not forget to say, Brother, I will go now. The credit is all yours. If you have the opportunity in the future, remember to promote your brothers. So-min turned his head and looked surprised. Strange, this guy could clearly let them give him a few knives, but he stopped them. The man warned So-min. I can spare your life, but you can't save your leg. So-min calmly clicked his fingers to try to calculate this man's life. His hands are constantly calculating. A moment later, he smiled as he figured out this person's life. The scene changes to a hospital room. So-min saw a miserable man sitting in front of his comatose daughter's hospital bed. He was startled and thought, is this the most painful obsession in his life? Suddenly, the man raised his hand and prepared to stab a knife into So-min's back. But then he stopped when he heard So-min say, If you do that, will your daughter be happy? The man was sweating. He didn't expect So-min to be able to guess it. Is this a miracle doctor? While he was stunned, So-min realized this was a good opportunity. He turned around and kicked the man's gun away. But he only kicked the gun away, and the knife in the man's left hand was still firmly held. So-min accidentally exposed an opening in his lower body. At this moment the knife was about to completely cut into him. But luckily, So-min jumped back and avoided a fatal move. Otherwise, So-min would almost no longer be a man. So-min pointed at the man's face and shouted, Where did you hit me? The man didn't care at all. He quickly rushed forward with a knife in his hand. So-min quickly stopped it. But then he also received a punch in the face from the man. So-min immediately threw a knee and counterattacked the other person's stomach. They both stepped back, staring at each other. So-min wiped his mouth and thought to himself, This guy also has skills. On this side, the man also thought to himself, He is so young yet he has such strong strength. This will be a good seed later. What a pity. He has never been trained by the battlefield. He simply couldn't understand that in order to win, he had to use no means at all. Thinking that, he immediately turned around to reach for the gun that had fallen on the ground. So-min gritted his teeth, not expecting this man to do such a thing. He rushed forward, rammed the man's shoulder, intending to prevent him from getting the gun. But this man is also quite agile. He reached for the gun. Then, he aimed straight at So-min and opened fire. Gunshots rang out but no one was hit. So-min quickly grabbed this person's wrist. Then he pushed the man to the ground, telling himself to control his gun. But he forgot that the man's left hand also had a knife. He chuckled because So-min had fallen into his trap. The man thought to himself, the gun is just a decoy. As long as it hits the weak spot in the abdomen, he will no longer have the ability to resist. At this moment, So-min shouted, I know your daughter is in the hospital. I can save her. I'm a doctor. Hearing So-min scream like that, the man shook his legs and tremblingly asked again, What did you say? Then they both let go of each other, stood up and looked at each other. So-min asked, If I guess correctly, your daughter must have an incurable disease. There is currently no way to treat it. Am I correct? The man asked in surprise. How did you know? So-min straightened his clothes and replied, It seems I guessed correctly. I really don't dare hide it. I know a little oriental medicine. Take me to your daughter. Maybe there will be a solution. The man looked disdainful. Oriental medicine? Then he got agitated, pointed the knife at So-min and shouted, Oriental medicine is all a scam. They only know how to prescribe prescriptions, only know how to tell people to take medicine. Those things are basically ineffective. You thought that have I never taken her to see a doctor? So-min calmly replied. I know there are many people who use their half-hearted hula-ha national technique to deceive others, he seriously affirmed. But I'm not like that. Didn't you ask me just now how I knew you had a sick daughter? So-min clicked his fingers and explained. I guessed it. You and I don't have any relationship, except fortune-telling. I don't have any means to know your information. Hearing So-min say that, the man was stunned. Then he asked again. So you tried to tell your fortune, where is my wife now? If your fortune-telling is correct, I will believe you. So-min said no problem, then clicked his fingers to calculate. The image of a woman walking on the street appeared before So-min's eyes. A moment later, So-min asked. Zhang Chao has a place called Namsun, is that true? The man was a little surprised. He nodded in agreement. So-min continued. That was the last place she went to while she was still alive. The man was dumbfounded when So-min guessed completely correctly. He was shaking so much that he dropped the gun in his hand. His whole body was shaking. He hesitantly asked. Can you really tell fortunes? So-min seriously replied. If I guess correctly, your daughter must have the same genetic disease as her mother. The man was now completely convinced. He clenched his fist. Then he prayed. If you really have the ability, I beg you to save her. So-min slowly walked forward, he affirmed. I'm confident I can cure your daughter. But So-min wanted to give one more condition. Hearing that, the man was a little confused. He thought, if I can really cure it, I will do whatever it takes to make money, but So-min doesn't need money. He said. I don't need money. I just need you to tell me all the information related to the boss behind you. Also, why does that person want to let you guys take action on me? The man stepped back, stammering. Boss once helped me. I can't be ungrateful, So-min wondered. Is your morality more important than your daughter's life? The man knelt down, looked at his hands and replied. If it weren't for the boss's money, my daughter wouldn't be alive until now. I can't sell out to the boss. Seeing this, So-min smiled and thought to himself. What a meaningful person. So-min also didn't want to make things difficult for the person in front of him. He slowly picked up his bag and said, I won't force you anymore. That boss of yours will probably continue to cause trouble for me. When that happens, you'll know. Go, take me to see my daughter. The two then went to the First People's Hospital of Jiangzhou City. The man led So-min to the hospital room where his daughter was lying. As soon as he saw the girl lying there, So-min thought, this girl's illness has gone deep into her bones. The man looked at his daughter, begging So-min to examine her. So-min quickly lifted the blanket and asked him to check her pulse. Then, he began to check her pulse. As soon as he finished checking the girl's pulse, So-min was stunned. He didn't expect it to be a blood disease. The man nervously asked, Blood plague? Can it be cured? So-min pulled the blanket back for the girl and replied, Of course there are solutions, it's just. The man was startled and quickly asked, Just what? So-min immediately replied, The method of treating blood plague is to inject strong medicine into the body. But now that she is so weak, she may not be able to stand it. The man nervously asked. So, what should we do? So-min asked him to give him some time to find a way. So-min began to think. His weak body could not withstand the effects of strong drugs. Is there any way